Well, this extra section came up to me while I was recording all the information that I showed you earlier. And it came up to me that, well, if we already view the ingredients, the process of the making, and the history of this cocktail, well, we have enough information to come up with our own variation of this cocktail. So I'm gonna be showing to you what uh, what could be a good choice for substituting the ingredients that we traditionally use to make a margarita. Okay, first, with the tequila, we can use different types of tequila. We have three different types, blanco, reposado, and añejo. And the three are very different. You know, with the blanco tequila, the flavor is a very fresh and crisp, and sometimes it could be very citric. And with the reposado, the agave flavor, it's much more expressive. It's not gonna have that freshness, that crispness of the blanco, but it's gonna be more mellow and with an agave flavor really intense. And with the añejo, we're gonna have uh, notes of spices, very characteristic from the barrel age, and also uh, it's gonna be with some sweetness on it, not because it's been added, but because of the process of those years in the barrel. So just understanding this, we can make some substitutions between the same tequilas. Now, if we want to change to something different, we can do mezcal, which nowadays it's very trendy. And also, well, the mezcal is very similar to the tequila. Both of them are agave distillates. The mezcal, however, it can be made from different agave plants. It's mainly produced in Oaxaca, but also you can find very good mezcal in Michoacan or Guerrero, which are states in Mexico. The mezcal is it's very smoky and it's very high in alcohol by volume, so you need to be careful when switching your tequila for mezcal. Also, another option that you can use Bacanora, which is also an agave distillate that it's made mostly in Sonora, which is north of Mexico, and it's very similar to mezcal and tequila. Actually, it's very little known of it, not only internationally, but within Mexico. This is because it was banned, its production, until a few years ago, and it's a very good option if you want to change to something really different in name but in same in quality and in agave flavor. Also, you can use sotol, which is also Mexican distillate. It's made in north of Mexico also, but this is in Chihuahua. And it doesn't come from the agave, but it's made with Dacilirium, which is a desertic plant. And it's very intense in flavor, and also have these smoky notes on it. So it's very similar to mezcal. Some people would say their taste very similar. My belief, or what I find about it, it's that the flavor is much more intense in Sotol. It's very good. Also, a high volume in alcohol, so you need to watch out while making your proportion for the cocktail. Another one would be raicilla. Raicilla is also an agave distillate, but this time it's from the south of Mexico, and it's mostly made in Chiapas. It's also very good. It's also something that a few people know and you can experiment with. If you want to try something different than the Mexican distillates, you can try Cocuy. Cocuy, it's an agave distillate, but this time it's from Venezuela. Also, you're gonna have this flavor of tequila like, but from a different distillate that it's not from Mexico. You can even try with something really different, such as Tapuy, which is the brand. And Tapuy, it's a pulque distillate, which pulque it's the agave sap that ferments. And pulque, it's a beverage that's very traditional in Mexico. And another option, you can use Subroca. Subroca, you might know this distillate. It's vodka that it's being steeped in bison grass. So it's gonna have this uh, herbal uh, flavor profile. It can be worked out into your cocktail. So these options and all the following options that I'm gonna give for the other ingredients, it's just a path. It's just give you like a hint on where can you go finding new ingredients that you can substitute with. Now, for the triple sec, my top option would be to use an Agavero. Agavero is the brand, and they have two types, the original and the orange. The original uses Damiana root, and the orange, well, it incorporate the orange essence into the tequila liqueur. So it's a liqueur made of tequila and with the orange scent. What would be best to mix the tequila with? Well, with tequila liqueur, and that's why Agavero orange would be my best option. But also you can use Mandarin Napoleon or Clement Creole shrub, which are gonna add this flavor of oranges or citrics. And even you can use something very traditionally in Italy, such as Mandarinello or Limoncello, to add these flavors into your cocktail. If you want to use something much more different, you can even try with the citric oil extract, which nowadays are very popular within the wellness industry. So you just add a few drops of these citric oils, and you're gonna have this characteristic aromas and some flavors of it. Also, another option would be use a tequila liqueur, such as Quitapenas. That's a good example. And you can substitute the triple sec with this if you're trying to make something a margarita that it would be much more of a Tommy's margarita, which doesn't use a triple sec. This way, this liqueur would actually increment the flavor of agave and take out this orange flavor to your cocktail. You can even try something really different, which is the quince liqueur, but it's very traditional in Mexico. So you can look for licor de membrillo or quince liqueur, And in a lot, mostly in all the states of Mexico, you are gonna be able to find quince liqueur. It's very traditional, and if you are with the Mexican theme, that will be a really traditional option. Now, my last two options are two liqueurs or two brands of liqueurs that incorporate very traditional ingredients in the Mexican gastronomy. Uh, the Mexican gastronomy, the main three ingredients are peppers, corn, and beans. So with ancho reyes, it's made with green or red peppers. You can either find one or the other. You can use, you can experiment with both of them. And I think ancho reyes, this pepper flavor profile, it's really good to incorporate. It will give you a flavor very different and, in my belief, really good to try. And the last one, it's made with corn. It's a corn liqueur, and it's gonna incorporate this toasted corn and sweet corn flavors to your cocktail, which I think that if you understand how to play them with the tequila, should work really fine and give you a really nice tasting cocktail. So this is my options for substituting the triple sec. Now for the lime juice, sorry, you can try the different citrus juices that we saw earlier. You know, I showed you a list of different citrics, so you can try those if you have them, if they are accessible to you. You can experiment with them and try to see, uh, it's very different the flavor of using Eureka lemon than using Meyer's lemon. You would understand that there are few differences within the citrics. Some are more aromatic, some are more sweet, and some are more tart. So try to experiment with those. That will give you a whole spectrum to experiment. Also, you can use citric acid, which is the element in the citrics that it's responsible for the tartness. Just have in mind that if you use citric acid, it's not gonna have the full flavor of a citric, such as a lime. It's just gonna give you the tartness. So you need to mix it with some other flavor to complement. If not, well, just the citric acid by itself, I don't think it's a very good option, but it can work out with different flavors. Or you can use what I call non-citrus fruit juices, and this is are fruits that are not within the citrics but have this tartness, such as the pineapple or acerola cherries, tamarind, gooseberries, and there are a lot of them. Now for the salt, well, also I showed you earlier some varieties of salt that you can use. Also, just experimenting with that will give you a whole spectrum of possibilities. Just switching from one salt to another would give you something more visually appealing, such as using a red salt or using a pink salt or using, I don't know, all these types of salt. Nowadays, with the mezcal being so trendy, there's been different types of salt like warm salt or salts that incorporate crickets or salts that incorporate tangerine, dried peels. A lot of options that you can get nowadays. just have in mind that, in my opinion, the salt should be modeled really fine. It should be dissolved really fast in your mouth, so it doesn't leave you with that salty, very overpowering flavor. Other than this, you can use saline solutions such as a brine. You know, you can use different types of brines, or you can use like soy sauce. Soy sauce would be an example, like really extreme, but it can work out. You can use soy sauce reduction, just rim your glass. You can also use salt foams, which is the foam is a technique, but in this case, if you use it to make this foam with the salt, it will actually be like a garnish and a way to incorporate the salt. You can also use seaweed. That would be like an option if you maybe doing something Japanese, like using yuzu lemon. That could work out really good. Or you can even use salt substitutes. Just understand that mostly of them mostly are made of potassium and magnesium. And this is just if you're taking care of your guests, you're aware of the consumption of salt. Maybe you want to use a substitute. Okay. Now for the agave syrup, we need to understand why we're using it. And we're using it as a complement of the main sweetener, which is the triple sec. And we're using a very small amount. So with the simple syrup, if we use any different sugars, in this case would not represent a differentiation in flavor. Now with honey, that could be something different. The honey, it have its own characteristic flavor, so you might be able to recognize the honey within your cocktail, even though if it's such a small amount. And different honeys have different flavor profiles, and this is due to their nutrition of the bees. Also, if they are stressed, the weather, or in the region where they live, they produce a different type of honey. Now, in the case of maple syrup and molasses, they are such a strong flavor, and you might be able to recognize it. And I would say that they will work really good if you are using an añejo tequila. I believe that molasses work really well with aged spirits. Also, you can use confectioner's sugar. This was the option decades ago when the syrups were not uh, so available. So the traditional thing to use was these powdered sugars. Nowadays, this sugar is mostly used in baking, so you need to be real careful. Doesn't add starches such as cornstarch or potato starch. Another option would be the high fructose corn syrup, uh, which a lot of people satanize this syrup. However, a lot of studies says that the bad things about it, it's due to the amount of consumption rather than the product itself. Other thing is you can use marmalade or jam. They can incorporate a few hints of flavor, or you can even use an orange marmalade to complement your cocktail. You can also use flavored syrups such as orgeat, which is very traditional in bars, or you can use ginger and lemongrass, which I think is one of the best options for a margarita. And also you can use something much less common, which is stevia, monk fruit sweetener, jackon syrup, xylitol, erythritol, and so on. There's a lot of sweeteners that you can use. Nowadays, there are sweeteners made from grapes, and for all the fruits, you can find sugars. Coconut is another option that you can find sugars. So just have in mind that, and you have in mind also that it's a small quantity, so you're just adding a few hints of flavor. Okay. Now you might want to turn your margarita into a daisy. You might say that, well, Mr. Wondrick, it's a much greater authority. And if he says that margarita is an evolution of the daisy, well, I want to uh, turn my margarita into a daisy, to be much more of a daisy. We can do it. We need to have these things in mind, like we need to change the glass. And this is because the ice plays a really important role in the daisy cocktail. This is we need to change it because cocktail glasses are meant to be used without ice, and now that we are adding it, you need to change also the glass. Also, another thing that we need to have in mind is that the sweet flavors should predominate and that the tartness should be a complementing flavor. So the singing element should be the sweet flavor. So if you're using mango to give the sweetness or a peach, those are gonna be your singing element, the element that predominates. Additionally to this, you need to have in mind that you need to add color and carbonation, which I think these two are the most important to turn your margarita into a daisy. Also, the garnish is more open to interpretation. If you know the sours, such as the margarita, they commonly use a flag or a boat using a lime or lemon wheel with the addition of a sherry as a garnish. And as we can see, as we could see in the cocktail books though, that I showed you, the daisies, their garnish is much open to use whatever you have in your bar. So uh, one good example would be if you're doing a raspberry variation, you can use blueberries. That way you're contrasting the colors and you're keeping the the berries, the use of berries in garnish and in the cocktail. Okay, so what I said about the color and the carbonation, I think that's the most important thing that we have to consider uh, when we turn our margarita into a daisy. And you can use the traditional grenadine, but I think that you can try to experiment with Pama liqueur, with pomegranate liqueur. And this way you're using something very traditional for the daisies, that it would be the grenadine. And if you want to keep your margarita with the same recipe as the margarita, but you just want to switch color, you can use red curacao. That will give you the color and keep you the use of the triple sec. You can even use hibiscus flower just to give uh, the hues of red into your cocktail. And the hibiscus flower, you can make an infusion into your syrup, or you can use it into your tequila. In this way, uh, you will incorporate the color to your cocktail. Or you can use any other liqueur to add different colors. Traditionally you can use chartreuse or orange cordial, which is gonna give you an orange color. Now for the carbonation, there are a few options. You can use beer, which in margaritas, incorporating beer is something that is being common. There are some margaritas that are called macho margaritas because they incorporate the beer element. And also I'm naming Corona. This is because some bartenders believe that Corona and tequila it's a match made in heaven, and they are it exists a lot of combinations with tequila and Corona beer. So you can experiment with that. Another option, you can use sparkling wine. This is because if you'd see the recipe for the margarita, it would resemble a French 75. So if you incorporate the sparkling, would be not much of a something so odd and different. It would actually something really good to add to your margarita. So you can even add pink sparkling wine and give this coloration. And also you can use even a Lambrusco to add a brighter red coloring to your cocktail. Also you can use non-alcoholic options such as tonic water or ginger ale, ginger beer also. Just have in mind that if you use a lot of ginger beer, that would be like a Mexican mule. And my last option would be something that it's becoming very popular, the hard seltzer. You can incorporate additional flavor, additional coloration and carbonation with this element. So this is some options that you could have in mind when you're trying to substitute some elements to come up with your own personal recipe. And well, for me, this is everything. I think that I already told you everything that I know about this cocktail. I hope it is helpful, that it helps you to up your game, to become a better professional, and that I hope it works not only for your margaritas, but also for all your cocktails and in your bar. And well, thank you for attending this masterclass. And if you like it, just give it a thumbs up. And I hope to see you in the next video.